Okay, good morning everyone. I think we're ready to go ahead and start. So first of all, I want to say good morning, welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar entitled Finding the Real Culprit Behind TIBCO Performance Issues by Correlating Your TIBCO Performance with Your Infrastructure Availability. Now, throughout the event, please feel free to submit any questions that you might have in the panel located on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible after the presentation. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Now, as the title might suggest, today we're going to be highlighting the ability to correlate performance metrics from both TIBCO and non-TIBCO infrastructure components in such a way that we can extract the context necessary to present visual insights that will allow you to identify the root cause of problems behind your TIBCO performance issues. Now, for you, those of you that are TIBCO administrators or TIBCO operations professionals, I'm sure that this is going to sound familiar. You know, somebody calls you up and says, hey, our credit card processing or, you know, insert your mission critical application here, app is down. And it must be TIBCO because the transactions aren't coming through and the pending message queue is growing rapidly. So, you know, you will often first start to look at your TIBCO EMS and BW servers and engines, and they all look okay. So you figure it must be something else. But since you really can't see any of the hosts or virtual machines or databases or, you know, external Java processes, you know, really all you can do is say, hey, it's not me, and try and pass the buck. But ultimately, it's your BusinessWorks application that's still not working, and ultimately you're on the hook to fix it until you can prove otherwise. Now, imagine, wouldn't it be great if you could pull up all the performance metrics, including both the TIBCO and the non-TIBCO metrics, for say the last 8 hours for that one particular application or service, and see that the pending messages started to increase about 10 minutes after the host or virtual machine hosting the database started to exceed its free memory threshold. Then at least you would know where to look for the root cause and really know who should be focusing on it. So today, since we're going to be talking about correlation, I wanted to start, you know, with a definition, because it's really how the power of SL's correlation is going to help solve your TIBCO performance problems. So if we look at what Google has to say about it, correlation is a mutual relationship or connection between two or more things. And of course, you know, we all know that, you know, TIBCO integration technology by definition is, you know, a connector, whether it's EMS or it's BusinessWorks or it's Active Matrix or Active Spaces. You know, it's connected, to so many different things within your applications. And you all know also how complex applications can be and how they're dependent upon dozens of different software components, things like databases and Java processes and log files and you know, data caches and event engines, messaging and messaging routers and more. Now, each one of these things are not only dependent upon each other, but they're also dependent upon your underlying hosts, your virtual machines, your cloud servers, your networks, and more. Now, you know, many of those things are laid out nicely and neatly in this process flow designer, but this isn't going to show you the real-time and historical performance data. And unless you can correlate the thousands of performance metrics from the hundreds of individual servers and processes generating data in your enterprise, then you're most likely going to be stuck looking at an overwhelming amount of data and an unreasonable amount of work to try and figure out which data points pertain specifically to the application that you're trying to troubleshoot. That's where correlation comes in. Correlation lets you see how individual alerts are related to your applications and platforms, and lets you prioritize your alerts based on the impact to your applications as well as the overall importance of that application. Now, unfortunately, correlation isn't something that's part of most siloed monitors. Obviously, if you're only monitoring one thing at a time, it's near impossible to correlate that with with metrics that you don't have access to. And unfortunately, most of the monitoring platforms that you guys are going to be familiar with cannot correlate both TIBCO and non-TIBCO components. So that kind of leaves you blind as to how one component might be impacting another. You know, we know that TIBCO Administrator can't give you this correlated end-to-end view. Of course, it wasn't really designed as a monitoring platform. It's more of a management platform. Even TIBCO Hawk, and we love TIBCO Hawk and use it quite extensively within our product, you know, it still can't give you this correlation between TIBCO and non-TIBCO components. And even the standalone TIBCO RTView monitors for BusinessWorks or standalone for EMS aren't aware of how different components are connected to each other in the context of an application or service. And that's where RTView Enterprise Monitor comes in. So Enterprise Monitor is our sort of next generation product that goes from individual standalone monitors to being able to plug in all of these different technology monitors into a single end-to-end monitoring platform for both middleware platforms as well as middleware-powered applications. Now, we've been building custom monitoring solutions for over 25 years, and SL are the de facto leaders in TIBCO middleware monitoring. And in fact, you probably are familiar with the TIBCO RTView products. And again, those are actually built by us, you know, the core, and it shares the same common core as Enterprise Monitor. But again, the extensibility of it is the big difference. Now, through consolidation and correlation, we're able to help people like you gain contextual visibility into the performance and stability of your most mission-critical applications so that you can anticipate growing problems and quickly respond before it becomes, you know, a big problem. And we can help you find the root cause of real-time problems so, of course, that you can find it fast and fix it fast. And if you're not 100% familiar with RTView, I would recommend joining one of our bi-weekly live product demos. We have them every other Wednesday, and in fact, the next one is next Wednesday, and where we have one of our engineers give you a guided tour of the product and walk you through it, and it's pretty informative. If you would like to do that, information for these web demos are advertised on our website, either right there on the homepage or in the events section. And they're also promoted in the original invitation that we sent you. And we'll also be sending you links as well. Now, today's webinar is really just going to be focused around a particular part of RTView, and that's really around the correlation aspect and specifically how it can help you troubleshoot your TIBCO platforms, your TIBCO applications, determine whether external forces are influencing your TIBCO performance. So let's start with correlating infrastructure to application health, okay? Now, RTView Enterprise Monitor correlates all the different metrics that it collects, again, from your TIBCO components, BusinessWorks, EMS, active spaces, business events, active matrix, adapters, what have you, and dozens of different infrastructure components from databases to application servers to web servers to host and cloud servers and virtual machines and all that kind of stuff, right? So we can correlate all those metrics and relate them to how they're connected to a given application or service and be able to display the status of that application or service at a glance, anywhere from green is good to red is bad, based on the health of its underlying components. So that's the first part of the correlation. We take a look at everything that's underneath an application. We look at the health state of all of these different pieces. We're able to aggregate that and present you with an aggregated health state of an application itself. In this case, on the screen, we're looking at our compliance application in the heat map. And if I click on that, boom, I can go down to the next level where I'm actually exploding it out and showing you all of the different services and components that make up that compliance application. And from there, you know, you can kind of see I've actually got one high severity alert, and that's within one of my 4 BusinessWorks processes here, right? And at the same time, I've got some lesser alerts on my EMS server in my TIBCO active spaces space. So just kind of looking at this, I can automatically kind of rule out, an external factor. Like I know it's not Tomcat, and I know it's not my host or some other kind of thing. So at least I know where to look. I've automatically eliminated, 4/5 of the different components that could be causing a problem in this application. And now I can drill down a little bit further to see exactly what's going on there. So that's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of finger pointing back and forth. Next, let's look at some intelligent groupings made possible by correlation. Now, since RTView is often and is best used by multiple teams throughout an organization to provide a single source of truth, so that everybody has the same metrics and the same visualization of those metrics, even more importantly. It's important not to overwhelm any given user with metrics that are not related to them. Again, you don't want to be drinking from the fire hose. You want to be presented only the information that's relevant to your application, to your job role, to your department, to your geographic location, what have you. So for instance, you can see that we've already selected just the production environments here. If you can kind of see my mouse waggling, I'm not sure that you can. I actually have an arrow here. Oops. No, that's not going to work. We can select by alert impact. I can select which owners. Right now it's all owners, but I could say, David, you're only responsible for these applications and these middleware platforms. And even the display here is broken up into 4 different areas. I've got my applications, very high-level summary. For instance, my demo apps are also exploded here along my left. But in general, I'm about an orange alert state versus my security applications, I'm at a red alert state. So I would know that I need to look at that first. Operations data, interactive applications data, and then my middleware platforms over here. So depending on your role, your view could default to any one of these or a combination of those to, again, make sure that I'm not giving you data that you don't care about. You're just looking at what you need to do your job effectively to make sure your applications are running healthily, and if they're not, give you the information in such a way that it's actionable. So as a follow-on to that, we can give you not just application health at a glance, but also platform health at a glance. You'll see here's all my infrastructure platforms, and if I want to, I could even further zoom down and only show you your TIBCO platforms. But I can see at a very high level, my EMS servers, they're not too bad, they're at a yellow. My BusinessWorks groups of servers, and these aren't individual servers, these are actually groups of servers, are grouped together to help you understand at a high level and then allow you to drill down a little bit further. So half of my BW servers are good, the other half, might have some minor alerts to it, active matrix, EMS, all of that kind of thing can be viewed in a single pane. And whether it's a heat map, some people love heat maps and some people hate heat maps. We can display it in a table. The number of visualizations are quite diverse. So let me keep going here. And now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We've been talking about how can I show the contextual relationship of different types of technologies. But we can also show you the relationship between similar types of technologies, whether you call it a cluster or a group of servers that are, shared a common goal, supporting a shared process, what have you. We can display an aggregate health metrics in a uniquely contextual way using correlation. I'll point out again, the point is not to just show you data, but to show you data in a way that makes it easier for you to do your job and to make it more actionable. So in this case, we're looking at a particular application. It's a compliance application within my TIBCO-centric products that I manage. And you can see it's made up. I think this is not all of the pieces in the puzzle, but we've got our active matrix service and service node, our business engine, BusinessWorks engines and processes, and our EMS queue. And instead of just showing you a long laundry list of every BW engine that I have in this process, in this screen, right now you can see by CI count, I've got 4 BusinessWorks engines supporting this compliance application. Again, through correlation, knowing that these 4 are all supporting the same processes, I can group them up, and you can see at a high level that of all my components, really only the BusinessWorks is giving me trouble. And out of my 4 servers, I've got 7 total alerts. Again, boom, I can click through to this, find the exact BW engine or engines that's causing me problems, and again, go about fixing that as soon as possible. Another way to visualize some of this content is in a side-by-side node or a side-by-side version, because when you're using multiple BW engines for load balancing purposes or active matrix service grids or what have you, you want to ensure that not only is work being distributed to all of the nodes, but it's being distributed evenly, because if there's an uneven distribution, some of your nodes are going to start alerting faster than others. It's ultimately going to slow down some of your transactions, but not all of your transactions, only the ones going to that node. So how do you visualize that? And again, this is a very simple example of an application that's using 2 active matrix service grid nodes to be able to support this process. And you can kind of see immediately that they're out of sync. One is handling a good bit more hits than the other, and that could be potentially a problem down the road. This is a very simple example. We have customers that are using 50 or more BusinessWorks engines to support, some very high capacity applications. And if you are just trying to figure out, well, is my load equally distributed amongst all 50 servers, and you just had, a spreadsheet of all 50 servers, and you'd have to go through line by line and try and visually figure out, well, which ones are not properly balanced or are they properly balanced, that would take you, a while. It's not very easy to do, and you probably wouldn't do it on a proactive basis because it would be such a pain. But to be able to display your metrics, correlated to your application in this sort of way makes it really easy for you at a glance to go, something doesn't look right here. Let me investigate a little bit further before it becomes a problem, rather than waiting for the alerts to fire and then trying to figure out what's happening, right? Another way to correlate data visually is through the use of our process flow diagrams. And what we do is we like these diagrams because they're very simple. Sometimes your applications are so complicated that really only the application architect knows exactly what all the pieces are and how they work together. And your support personnel or even your middleware personnel might not understand the completely, the whole end-to-end picture. And with these process flow or data flow diagrams, it's easy to not only get the picture of all the pieces, but again, start connecting the dots to see which things are related to what and infer what a cause might be. So in this example, you might be getting some alerts that your EMS queue is backing up, that your BW engine is slowing down. And if all you had was tools that only monitored BW and EMS, it might take you a while to figure out that this virtual machine down here at the bottom is actually pegged at 100% CPU. And that's what's slowing down one of these 4 BusinessWorks servers that's running on that virtual machine, and also causing the queue to back up over here on the scanner level. And it's this kind of correlated contextual visualization that you can instantly look at and go, the system knows that all 4 of these are related, that they're all running on this VM, and display it in such a way that I think you could instantly look at it and go, seems like I really should investigate this virtual machine over here. That could actually be the cause of my BW slowdown and not any sort of misconfiguration on BusinessWorks itself. Again, very valuable. Something like this can save you, a half hour or even hours in some cases. So Next is another type of visualization, and this is new to us in the last year, and if you haven't seen it, this is one of my favorites, and it's the ability to not only see the performance of different components side by side, but also the ability to understand the impact that one component has on another component. And when you're trying to do root cause analysis, this is, invaluable. So we have a relatively new feature called, or it's a new dashboard called the Key Metrics History Map, right? And it is what it sounds like. These are all of the key metrics that make up our orders service, which is one of our TIBCO-centric services. And it's not only, one of the differences between this and some of the other ones is the colors here are not necessarily indicative of how many alerts you have on any one of these metrics. In fact, only the red ones are alerts. All other colors are showing you how close your metric is to your threshold, so that ideally you can intercept growing issues that go from red to yellow to orange before they ever turn red, before they ever alert. And if you have an SLA to try and reduce the number of incidences within your platforms, within your applications, or reduce the amount of downtime, this is a great way to kind of get ahead of it. We have a lot of customers who have said, we're still finding problems, but we're finding them well in advance of their severity 1 status, and that's helping us reduce that rate. Now, in this particular example, it's pretty interesting. So let's say that in this case, the pending message count. Well, I'll even back up. I mean, I think this is actually loosely based on something that happened in our own environment, where we would get these alerts, and then by the time we actually went to investigate, we couldn't see anything that was wrong. Essentially, whatever had caused the problem had resolved itself before we could ever get to what was going on. And then once we implemented this new visualization, it made it obvious, and you guys are probably already ahead of me in determining what the issue is. But in this case, the pending message count for this EMS queue right here, hopefully you can see my cursor, would always start triggering alerts around 2 p.m. each day. But again, every time we look, everything seems to be fine. We don't know why the pending message count is so high on that, right? And if we kind of take this view, which is not only showing you how close you are to the threshold, but it is also introducing the concept of historical data. I'm actually looking at a 24-hour view of this particular application here. We can start kind of reading the tea leaves. We can see that at 8 a.m. when business starts, we see that the CPU on our BusinessWorks engines starts to pick up. We see that our order queue message rates are starting to pick up as we would expect. In the beginning of the day, we're starting to get load. We want to see that. We see that our host CPU is actually running a little bit hot. It's fully utilized already. And again, without seeing how close you are to the threshold, you might actually have some components in your most important applications that are not alerting, but just, are right there on the line. And to know how close you are to that threshold at any given time is important as you do capacity planning and try and avoid these dependencies. Well, so we see everything's running fine here. Now we look at the middle of the day. For some reason, the CPU on our business engines, starts slowing down. Our order queue message rates start slowing down, and why is that? And then we kind of see it starts picking up again after 2, but after 2 is when our pending message rate on this particular EMS queue gets really high. And again, why is that happening? We always log in right about here and can't see any problem. But looking at this view, we can actually see down here, there's this additional process that's running on the VM, this rogue CPU hog, right? Starts running, starts sucking up CPU already on a host that's fully utilized. And as a result, these BW engines are now starved for CPU. Your order queue outbound message rates drop because BW is not processing them fast enough, and your pending message rate starts to grow. You see it go from green to yellow to orange to red, right? Now, right about the time, and it takes a little while for these messages to build up, that's when you get your alert, but of course that's pretty close to the same time that the rogue CPU hog process is done. We see now that BW engines start working again, and they're working overtime to kind of clear that backlog, and we see that the order queue, the message rates are back up. But of course, this pending message count, it's been stacking up, and it takes a while to clear out. And unfortunately, that's going to cause order delays through the rest of the day. Now again, imagine, we have the same problem too. By the time you look here, your root cause is gone already. You can't see it unless you have this contextual, historical, correlated view of the data. This would take you a lot of time. And I know a lot of customers who go, well, we don't know what it is, but it fixed itself. Let's just cross our fingers and hope it doesn't happen again. But of course, it will happen again. It happens at the worst possible moment. So that's one of my favorite ones where I want to kind of switch gears here now. We've shown you a lot of examples of how correlated data can help you look into your TIBCO middleware platforms and your middleware-powered applications and try and figure out, is the problem in my middleware, or is the problem in some of the external infrastructure that's maybe causing my middleware to slow down, but it's not really the root cause. But to be able to do that, we try and make it look easy. We want to make it as seamless as possible for our users. But there's a lot of infrastructure required in order to make this happen. That's why we're unique in being able to provide this kind of visual correlation to our customers. The first part of the secret sauce is a service model integration. And it's the service model that really defines which components and which metrics are related to which applications and services. And, this is something that we can import from your existing CMDB. It's something that we can help build from scratch with our editor. But most of the time, we're able to dynamically generate a service model of your applications and services based on things like your naming conventions. And, it's largely automated in most scenarios. And we can go over that in more detail in another webinar. Second is to have this historical context, to be able to see not just what's happening right now, but what has led up to it. Has this been a slowly building, memory leak over the last 4 days, or is this just, boom, a sudden spike that happened at noon, and, I don't know why, but something just started sucking up all the CPU all at once. And not only having this, but of course, sounds easy, but to store all of your historical metrics is difficult. We have a pretty flexible infrastructure that allows you to do that. All of your recent real-time metrics updates are stored in local in-memory caches and are just pulled as needed by the dashboard. Over time, as that data starts to age, we move them over to persistent database storage, and again, as that data continues to get older, we'll start doing some intelligent compactions. Instead of 5-second updates, we'll average it into minute time spans to hour time spans, because eventually, although it becomes less and less valuable to troubleshooting the older it gets, it's still valuable in terms of capacity planning. And so we can intelligently do that without overwhelming your databases, which would normally happen if you just try and shove everything in at a high granularity forever. And the third is our pre-built dashboards. It's not just getting the data, it's not just relating the data, but it's how you visualize the data. And I was just talking to one of our customers who said, it's not collecting data for data's sake. It's actually collecting metrics so that it can be actionable, so that you can find problems, so that you can resolve problems and get back to the business. And it's not just collecting it, but how you look at it that enables you to make those intuitive decisions to try and track down your problem. And that's something, again, that's provided out of the box as well as customizable with our platform, which is unique to us. So I'm going to change gears here for about 5 minutes. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Everett Williams. Everett is our Senior Technology director for SL Corporation, and he's agreed to come in and tell you guys a little bit more about the science of the correlation and show you a little bit about what's involved, and it's quite impressive. So Everett, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter right now so that you can go ahead and share your slides and do your thing. So welcome, Everett.
Thank you, David. Let's see, where's PowerPoint? There's PowerPoint. Okay, so when we talked a lot about previously, and David's been going through, is the power of correlation, and what you can actually do with the technology. And what we're going to talk about here is sort of the fundamental basis of the technology. And we're going to talk about two kinds of correlation that we do across all the systems we monitor, from your Oracle systems to your VMware to your TIBCO to your open source, whatever they are. We have to apply these concepts as we go through each one of those. We're going to start with identity correlation, and what does it mean, and how do you identify something across the system, and what does you actually do? And the other parts is, dealing with different time series of data as you bring it in and different sample rates, and how do you then make a correlation when the time series vary? So let's pop on down to identity correlation. So what you have in when you have a system, you have some monitored entity. It's a program and you wrote it. And within that program, you may point a host monitor at it today, and the host monitor views it as a process. It tracks its CPU, its network activity, maybe its disk activity as it goes up and down. But then you also might point a J2E monitor at it if it's a web app, and it will look like, it'll track the threads and the sessions and the values associated with it, but it's still your program. You might also have a cache monitor, and it may view it as a TIBCO active spaces client that it's actually get it through its gets inputs. It might also be viewed by the database monitor as a client. You've connected to the database, you're running queries. And then it also may be a JMS client through your EMS monitor, putting and getting, publishing, subscribing to a queue. But really, when you look at it, it's really just one program. And what we see in a lot of traditional monitoring applications is you get 5 different views of effectively the same thing. So what we talk about in identity correlation is the ability to look at these independent and unrelated objects as the single program they are. So within our enterprise monitor, we will correlate these together so that you can get a common view of your entity that's being monitored. And that then allows you to look at through our enterprise monitor portal, through our service model, and through our key history heat maps to actually get a consolidated, what is this program doing? Now, this is fundamentally really the basis of all correlation, because if you can't identify it, you cannot relate to it. And that generates our enterprise identity database. The next piece of this puzzle comes in as time series correlation, because we have lots of things, maybe multiple hosts that apply, multiple values getting out of Hawk or JMX, and you may be sampling this data. And there's not always a guarantee that the sampling data aligns up. So you might actually get different time series as you go through it. So for these data elements may spread across a 10-second period. And the goal in looking at these different samples of these different data elements is, how do you bind them together to get a real-time view of the snapshot of what you're looking at? So is 5B related to 4B, or is it more related to 4A? And the work that we do in this area is understanding the relationships and types of data that you're dealing with. Is the data average? Is it a queue set length? Is it a ranged value? So how do you then determine what those items are? And what you end up doing is we have several algorithms that will go through, and sometimes you group them this way if they're averages, and that may be the best way to do it. The other way you might group them is you might actually group them back in time. If 4, 3, and 2 are points in time values, they may be more related to 5 and to sample C than they are to sample B. So it is an ability to actually correlate these data elements not only by identity, but also by the time series which they were sampled at. So really what does it come down to is when you look at these items, what are really the kind of key features that once you get this level of correlation within the data, what do they give you? And the first one under identity correlation, which is really the power, which is the drilling between heterogeneous systems. To drill from, say, your TIBCO data that you're looking at the on your TIBCO monitor, and drilling over to your database to see, well, what is the history of the data queries that this particular node, this particular client has used. You can also then evaluate historical trends. If you can't identify something, then you can't maintain a historical trend to say this thing was doing it, an hour ago, it's now doing this. And then third, which is also a huge value, is really the end-to-end analysis, which goes along with the drilling between heterogeneous systems. It allows you to create a dashboard that shows the interrelationships between entities and the activity and utilization as it goes between them. Time series correlation is a little more esoteric in nature, but it really allows the correlation of independent metrics. If metrics are not gathered at the same time or within the same sampling rate, you lose the ability to actually say this queue length and this CPU cycle measure are actually related, that they cause each other. And that without the time series correlation, you don't get that. Again, historical trends and lining those up, those independent metrics. And then bottom line, you get better decisions. Because you understand that the data is actually related, you then can actually say, yes, this independent measure and that independent measure are causal in nature, not just, actually directed by, they happen to be the same thing. So that's really the two items that we wanted to cover. There are several other areas where we do correlation, which are associated, end-to-end, and a few other items that we talk about in some of our other webinars. If you'd like to see them, please contact Gia, and she will bring those up as well. Thank you. Back to David.
Okay, thank you very much, Everett. Let me get back to sharing my application here, and we're just going to go ahead and wrap up quickly. Let me go through these slides. So just to kind of wrap up our discussion, I think we've given you some great examples of how correlation helps solve some significant visibility problems and helps customers like you quickly determine whether problems that you're seeing in your BusinessWorks components are actually caused by your TIBCO components or if it's caused by external forces. But all of this is really, not data for data's sake, but it's about helping you, the customer, find the cause faster, whether it's in your side or you have to prove that it's in somebody else's side. Find it as fast as possible. That way you can escalate issues to the right teams as fast as possible instead of spending the first 5 hours in a war room pointing fingers at each other. So having that single source of truth is critical to that. And being able to enable these teams to work together with that single source of truth so that you can ultimately, get your applications to be more stable, reduce the number of outages or reduce the number of severity 1 incidences that you have, and also reduce your mean time to recovery when you do run into situations. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. And that's what we're here for. So just to kind of round it all out, we're going to take questions here in just a minute. If you're interested in more data, we have a companion ebook called The Power of Visual Correlation and Application Monitoring. We're happy to send that to you. We also did a webinar last year, which is very popular, called the All-in-One TIBCO Monitor, kind of, again, focusing on showing how all of your different components in TIBCO are interrelated to each other and how you can use a lot of the same dashboards that we've seen here to optimize your TIBCO monitoring and management environment. Now, we have been recording this webinar. We will be sending out a copy of it as soon as it is available. And I'll tell you what, we'll provide links to both of these resources in that email so that you can read them yourself or feel free to share them with a colleague, with your team, with your boss, what have you. And if you just can't wait, all of these are available at www.sl TIBCO-powered.com in our resources section, along with quite a few other resources. And, we're here to help you if you want to. We can do a personalized one-on-one demo just for you and your company. We also offer free trials of this product through our website as well. So I hope that's been really interesting to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of your questions. So at this time, let's go ahead and just take just a few minutes, because I know we've gone a little bit longer than we wanted to answer any questions that you might have. You're going to look for that chat window. Normally it's at the right-hand side of the screen. Sometimes you might have to go to the green bar at the top of your window, if it's like me, to get to that chat window. And then you can submit questions. And if we don't get a chance to get to all of them, we'll follow up with you independently after the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. I've already got one here. And it's the question, is this the same RTView that I got from TIBCO? And it's not. It is and it's not. What we've been showing you today is the RTView Enterprise Monitor. This is designed to monitor all of your application environment, what we call end-to-end application monitoring, from the host to your infrastructure, your databases, your app servers, all your connective middleware, all the way out to the end user experience. That's different than the TIBCO standalone monitors, which are focused on monitoring one technology at a time, which they're available from TIBCO for BusinessWorks, for EMS, and from business events. We also independently have plugins for all of those, plus Active Spaces and Active Matrix, and we're in the process of releasing adapter monitoring technology too, so if that's interesting to you. So they do share the same common core. Actually, the product, the base is even called RTView Core. But to be able to get this correlation, you're going to want to get that from the Enterprise Monitor that has access to everything. So sorry, that's a long-winded explanation. Let's see. I've got another question here, and that's, can I import metrics from another system? And yeah, in fact, Everett might have some more detail on this, but we do know that if you are using something like Oracle Enterprise Manager or some of these other monitoring systems, we can import that data. Isn't that right, Everett? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah. Yes, you can. We have a completely open system. So we have development tools that will allow you to bring in data, your own data as well. We bring in alerts from different systems. We actually will export to different systems as well. So it's a completely open system for both data and alerting, as well as visualization. So, and you're correct, we have done Oracle Enterprise Manager as well as Nagios and a few other systems as well.
Great, thanks, Everett. Well, everybody, we are at 11:45, and I think we've run out of time. Any other questions that we have, we'll just follow up independently with you. We have your email address. So I want to thank everybody for joining. Again, please, visit our website, learn more information, visit us even on tibcommunity.com. We'd love to work with you and try and help you solve some of these problems. So if there's anything we can do, reach out to us at www.sl.com. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.